Welcome to the Practice You podcast. My name is Elena Brower. Together, we'll explore and enjoy content and conversations around mastering transitions in our relations, our wellness, our careers, our families, and especially in our missions and visions. You are invited to learn and love and listen with me. Welcome to Practice You. Welcome back to the podcast. I have with me today one of my dearest friends, the only Miki Agrawal. Miki is a social entrepreneur. She's so many different things. How do I even talk about you? She's an author. She's an environmentalist. She's a mother. This is all off the top of my head. I'm not reading right now. She is a designer of some of the most important products of our time, most notably your favorite period underwear. Thanks. And even more notably, your favorite attachable bidet, which if you don't have one, you have to get one. It's under $100. It's called the Tushy, one of my favorite words. Miki, it's really a true pleasure to have you on here. You and I have been friends for quite a number of years. You've always impressed me. I love you very much.
I love you too. And I think like one of my favorite things is that Jonah, your beautiful boy,
Yes.
loves the Tushy.
He loves the Tushy. We all do. No. We all do. I don't know where, as soon as I since the advent of the Tushy, I've moved. I can count how many times I've moved because I know how many times we've had to unhook and rehook up the Tushy. 4 times. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Let me know if you need the whole kit and caboodle. I'll send you like the Tushy tissue stand. I'll send you our Tushy ottoman, which is like way more beautiful than the squatty potty. I'll just send you the whole kit. Just send me your address.
I am going to do that.
Whole kit. I'll send you the softest organic bamboo towels, like literally, like it feels like butter. I'll send you the whole kit.
Excuse me, I didn't even know that was happening. Oh my God! And now I have the space to set it up. You know, in New York, I don't think I had that kind of space, but here I have a little more space. Oh my God, that's so exciting!
You're about to get hooked up, girlfriend.
We are all very thankful over here. I want to start with Cornell because we share an alma mater. What year did you graduate? Go Big Red?
2001.
Oh my God, I'm 9 years older than you.
I love it. You literally look younger than me, so it's fine.
I don't know about that. Were you always this creative? Were you always this visionary? Do you feel like that came along at a later stage, or did it start early?
I mean, I think one of the most, I've thought about just the question of creativity a lot, just because it comes up a lot, and I think I owe a lot of permission to be creative to having an identical twin sister who, we both we grew up in a very middle class in suburb of Montreal, Canada, and we shared a bedroom for 12 years of our life in a bunk bed. And first of all, they didn't know I was going to be born. I was the bonus kid. They didn't know I was going to be born until a month and a half before I was born, because I was hiding behind my sister in the ultrasound, and so they couldn't ever find me. And then I was a month and a half before. They already bought the house. It only had 2 bedrooms, one for my older sister and one for my twin sister. But then I was born, and then so now my dad calls me Bonas. Bonas, come here.
Bonas. Your dad's from India, right?
My dad's from India, mom's from Japan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So nickname's Bonus. So I think like we just grew up like playing a lot in our room, like together all the time. Like, and we had like one doll each. Like I had Skippy, she had Gansey, and we had a lot of books, but we didn't have a ton of toys. We had like a couple of dolls, and then so I had my favorite doll, Skippy. She had Gansey. And we would just tell stories and stories and stories of like Skippy did this, and then Gansey came in, and Gansey flew in from the whatever, and then Skippy, like it was just that whole thing.
I need a picture of the
yeah, I'll send you a picture of
directly.
Skippy
please.
We still have them. They're in our house in Brooklyn. Andrew had better not give those away. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm just messaging him right now.
You better text Andrew right this second about
I'm
Skippy and
actually doing that. Do
Gansey.
not give away Skippy and Gansey, or else
Yeah, thank you
my
for that.
two little dolls.
Yeah, those two need to go into like some piece of art.
I know they're literally my prized possessions.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so I think, like, and then my third sister is 11 months older. She was always kind of like doing her own thing. But we also, the three of us were very, we did a lot of things together, playing sports and all of that. But I think from the creativity perspective, we just gave each other so much permission. And then as we got older, we just, my sister would say, like, I have an idea. What do you think about this? And I would say, like, oh my God, that's literally the best idea I've ever heard my whole entire life. And then
Mm,
she'd be like, okay, I'm going to go do that. And, like, I'll support you. I will clap for you. I will do.
yeah,
And so kind of just like we had like a buddy that always cheerleaded each other in our creative pursuits. And it was never like, that's a stupid idea. Go become a doctor. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it was always like, I love that. So I think, if we all have, it doesn't have to be your twin sister. It could be like a close friend, even a sibling, could be anyone that just gives you permission to fully express, and then, like, helps you magnify that expression.
One thing that I really love about watching you, I've seen you speak a number of times, both on product and on leadership. I love the fact that you are pretty much known for your quote unquote inappropriate behavior as a leader. It's something that really turns me on. It totally does. It has given me a great deal of confidence to watch you speak. I'm serious. And whenever I do, I come away with massive ideas for how I want to show up in the world with my giant team, with anyone, really.
I know you have, like, what, like 37,000 people that were, I mean, that's insane,
It's
right?
a
I mean,
little more, but
that's
what I
so
want to
big.
say is, what I want to say is, at what point did you find yourself feeling enough confidence that you could get up in front of the world and create pretty much only products that are basically taboo?
Well, I think it's that. It's the permission. It's like it was the, call it, naive permission
Mm,
of my sister, but also I just think that, like, I do think that when you grow up with someone so close, where you cannot be, in quotes, like, like, ruined by societal conditioning in a lot of ways, where we're like put in a box because of social pressures and societal pressures. When, I think I've had the blessing of having, like I said, an accountability buddy from a lens of being my true self for my whole life. And I think because of that, like, talking about things that are societally taboo is just bizarre, because it shouldn't be. Like, nothing should be off limits to talk about and to discuss, especially as it relates to the human condition, the human body,
right.
especially as it relates to, the thing that creates human life, a woman's period, or something that every human does, poop, and something that, from the point you're born, like, your parents talk about the kid pooping, like, constantly, and then all of a sudden one day it becomes taboo to talk about. It's just strange. And I think, like, if we all just agreed to, oh, well, this is just the way it is, then I don't think there would ever be a lot of positive change. And I think those who, often do find the strength or courage or whatever to just speak their truth, or to be like, why is this weird, is because they've been given permission and the freedom to do so. And I don't take that lightly. And I think, having like I said, an accountability buddy who's like, why are you acting like that? Like, when you're a teenager, you're trying to be, like, cool, or you're trying to fit in. And then the person who knows you best, like, is, like, looking at you all funny because you're trying to be cool. And then that's just not who you are. And then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of you snap out of that version of yourself that you're trying so hard to fit in. And then you just continue to be yourself. And then you have somebody constantly being like, why are you acting like that? Or why are you saying it like that? You're not being yourself.
Yeah.
So I just think that's so important.
There are two things that are right now really on my heart to talk about. One is the realization that you'd been assaulted sexually at college and never really managed it until quite recently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and I'd like to start there, and then I want to go on to the sort of professional hurdles that you've surmounted, which will inspire my listener greatly.
absolutely. Yeah. So, my freshman year in college at Cornell, I was sort of just again super naive, super trusting, and like would work out at the gym. I played soccer at Cornell all 4 years, and had met like all the other teams, like football players and other soccer teammates and all this stuff, and we'd all work out in the gym together, and then that's it. We would go about our lives in school, and one day I was studying for computer science. And I remember and by the way, this is the very first time I'm ever sharing this story out loud. And my heart's kind of beating a little bit fast,
Mine
but it's
is
actually
too.
really,
No, I'm
it's
proud of
really,
you. Keep going.
yeah. Um, so my freshman year, I was taking this class called computer science, which was like learning Java programming, which was one of the hardest uh, like classes ever. And I had not been one of the programming types of people, and so I had to do so much extracurricular work and extracurricular just like after school stuff to just keep up to all the people who've been doing this their whole lives. And so one day I was working late till like 2 o'clock in the morning on, in North Campus. And I was walking home at like 2 o'clock in the morning from North Campus. And, and then like I hear this voice, like, "Hey, Shorty." And I was like, "Oh, hey." And I turn over, and it's this guy on the football team who I've seen in the gym a bunch of times. And he's like, "What are you doing walking home so late?" And I was like, "Oh, I just came from, studying computer science. Like, I'm great." And then he goes, "My mama would never let me let, a young lady walk home alone from school." And I would just say, "No, no, no, no. I'm good. I'm good. I'm a soccer player. I could squat like basically 200 pounds. Like at the time, like I'm good." And he just kept insisting, "No, no, no. My mom would never let me let, a young lady walk home. Let me call you a cab. Let me call you a cab. Let me call you a cab. Let me call you." And finally I was like, all right, okay, like no problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't need it, but all right, fine. So we walk into his dorm room, and he picks up like, like remember those like rotary phones at like the school in like
Very
each
well.
dorm.
There was one on every desk in
Yeah,
the
the
dorm rooms.
beige,
Yes,
beige colored rotary, exactly.
it was
So
beige.
yeah, and then he picked up the phone, and he like dialed some number, and he's like, "Seats busy, seats busy, seats busy." And I was like, "The cab place is busy?" He's like, "Yeah, it's busy." Like it was clearly like it was some kind of a I don't know, like he dialed some number, and he said, "This phone is busy." And at the time I just didn't think anything of it. I was like, "Okay, cool, no problem, I'll walk home." He's like, "Nope, you're staying." And he like closes the door, and I was just like, "Okay, whoa." And in my head I'm like, "Wait, is this like?" I was still naive because like I know this guy, like this can't be a thing. But he's like, "No." He's like, "You're sleeping over here. I have to work all night, so you're sleeping in my bed tonight." And I was like, "No, dude, bro, thank you, but no." He's like, "Absolutely not. I'm going to the living room. I'm studying all night, so you can just take my room and just like sleep here." And I was like, "No." And then he sort of got a bit threatening, so I was like, "Oh, I mean, like doesn't seem like I have a choice." And so I sort of like gingerly like sat on his bed like so uncomfortably, but I didn't, I was 18 years old. Like I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then it was so late, and I was just tired, and I was like, "All right, I mean, and he goes, "Don't worry, I'm leaving." And so he like closes the door and leaves. And so I'm just sitting in there in this room, and I'm like, "All right, like, do I just leave?" But I got scared. And so I just sat
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then I eventually like laid down for a second because I was tired. And then the next thing I know, he's like barges into the room, locks the door, and he just like starts like feeling me up and doing all this crazy shit. And like, luckily, I was squatting 200 pounds, and so my legs were like super held tight together, and I didn't. I like he was a super big football player, but he couldn't get inside. So it was just really
Mickey.
fine for like 4 hours. yeah, it was like a 4-hour thing, and then at like 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun was like peeking up out of the horizon, and
Yeah.
then I was like the road runner where I was like, whoa! I like shut up and then sprinted out the door because I don't know how I was like I don't know how like I this what just happened, and I remember like running home,
You
and
grabbed
then
all your stuff and everything in that short period of time. You just boom.
I just I just picked up, and I had like I think I had my backpack or something. I just like grabbed and just sprinted out the door,
Great.
and and I remember going home and taking like a 2-hour long scalding hot shower and then like crying. And it was so interesting because after that I was like, all right, like that just, like that nothing happened. Like it was, I mean, overall, like it was, in the grand scheme of things, like nothing really happened. So like I feel like I'm not gonna talk about this ever again. Like I'm not even gonna, bring it up or say anything because I just didn't know, it's like I didn't have any tools or any understanding of like what to do or who to go to. And it was so shameful. Like I felt ashamed because I put myself in that position, right? Like even if it wasn't really like I was trying to be like polite and then all of a sudden I'm like, in this position. And so I felt a lot of shame for being like, oh, I'm such an idiot. So I'm like, I'm not gonna like so I actually didn't talk about this for I don't know or didn't even like process it for I don't know 30 years or something or no not 30 years because I was 20 I would know I was 18 when it happened and then I started working with our coach our mutual coach Lauren Zander when I was 35 yeah 35 so for the next basically yeah what is that what's 35 minus 18 whatever that number
Two Cornell girls.
is.
It's around 17 years later that you go
Yeah, yeah,
ahead and
17,
process this
17,
shit.
17, 17.
What's his name? Let's get it out there.
I don't even honestly, I don't even remember. I've blocked it out so hard. I tried really hard to remember, but I just have 0
Could
recollection.
we look at a picture of the football team from that year?
I couldn't even I mean, 17 years ago, I couldn't even take him out of a lineup. But my freshman year in college, it was like
Uh,
such a blur, like, and I
mm,
didn't like, I don't I'd like I mean, I don't know, like, I just don't even I'm like, I have no interest. I genuinely don't wanna do that.
okay, got it.
Um, but yeah, so 17 years later, Lauren, our coach, basically, like, asked us to write our 10 darkest hauntings in our life that we would take to the grave. Like, what are some of the things that happened to us in our lives that we would take to the grave? And I was like, "Oh, this story." And I hadn't even necessarily thought about it or like thought about it cognitively, but what I then figured out after I wrote it down was like, wow, every time I feel like violated in any way or feel really bad or feel, something, I take a really hot shower. And I know that's kind of like, you know, like like a lot of people do that in general, but I feel like that it began when that happened when I was 18. So I kind of was like, oh wow, that's really interesting um that maybe that there's a correlation there. And I didn't really think about it cognitively, but maybe in my body I did.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely what happened.
Yeah.
Wow. And I find knowing this story cursorily, now I know it fully, and knowing what you endured as a founder of a company, taken advantage of by certain people that you hired. I don't know how much
Yeah.
or little of that story, but I feel like there is a correlation between that and this that will likely never happen again. Tell
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. And what I can say about this story, which, like legally, it's just, like some people just have this as their thing to just come after you over and over and over again. And so like I'm just sort of, you know, like what I can say about this is that people who so I've experienced sexual assault in my life, and I will also say that people who falsely accuse people of sexual assault, sexual harassment are as guilty as people who sexually assault somebody, because that is also like something that I understand very, very personally, and it's as violating as being sexually assaulted, sometimes even more violating, because it's your good name that's being sort of tarnished in the world for something that just simply did not happen in that way. And so I've experienced, like those things personally. And I will say that, especially those who adorn the feminist shirts and the vagina necklaces and shout from the rooftops about liberating women, and if they're the ones who are falsely accusing people of sexual assault, sexual harassment for self gain, that to me is the most unfeminist thing someone can do. The most
It gives me the
unfeminist.
chills thinking about that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. So
disgusted chills.
yeah. So I
So
I
sorry.
definitely feel for the 5% of people who have been falsely accused. And I also feel for the 95% of women who are telling the truth and who have been victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment. And I feel for both of them deeply, deeply from a personal level.
Yeah. And so moving on from that, what I found really impressive about you is watching you go through that and get to the other side of that with
While I was
rights
pregnant, by
while
the
you're
way.
pregnant. It was just so the allegations were so preposterous at the time, and I was so frustrated watching you have to go through it. And there was nothing that anybody could do except to just be there and support you in any way that we could. um
Yeah, I will say the community, you and everybody was just, I think, got me through that crazy, is this real life time where it's just like looking out the window being like, is this real life? Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
was such a crazy, and of course I was also extremely hormonal from being pregnant, that it was like extra, like what the actual,
yep,
and
yep.
um a lot of it had to do with, like people like wanting to control my business as well. I built a big company, and powers that be wanted to control it and take control of it. And there's those hands were also not clean in this process of this whole experience. And so that's something that one day we'll talk about. But
I can't wait. When's the statute of limitations up on that shit?
yeah, when
7 years? What is it? 4 years? three
well,
years
yeah, I mean, it's just how much money in legal am I willing to spend to fight, for
Oh, I see,
my
I
good
see, I
name.
see, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
I got
So
it.
it's just more like I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to speak my truth and have to deal with the legal ramifications.
Mm,
Speaking about specifically the powers that be, not
sure.
necessarily this lower experience. But yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of you know like there's a lot of things that I had to sign out of like just in order to like get health insurance because I was pregnant, and all these things which absolved a lot of the people who said the bad things, and so I
So you
couldn't.
you because you needed to get certain services, you actually had to absolve them in order to get. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. So there was a lot of things that had to happen in order to just like keep living my life in a safe way where I felt
Wow.
like that I was protected and that my unborn child was okay and all of that. So there was just a lot of messed up things that went down that I learned a lot from, and I actually now see a lot of these people, including these like the employees, board members, all these different types of people. I see them as actual, I call them my angel obstacle creators, where they were put on earth to create these obstacles for me as part of my journey to learn and to grow and um, to really figure out what is the best way to build a company in a way that's both trusting and still loving from my end, but not be taken advantage of.
Right.
And so I'm actually genuinely grateful for the freedom that was created from this experience, and then led me to build an even bigger company with Tushy
Mm.
and do it the right way with the right people, and the right leadership in place and senior people and people of experience versus just a bunch of young 20 somethings who think they know everything, which they just, it's just not true. So it's
Right.
kind of one of those things, right? I keep thinking about where it's like, the older you get, the less you know, the less you think and
The
I feel
less you
like
know, you know. It's true.
the less yeah, the less the less yeah.
Yeah.
So um and so I feel like a lot of, when you're dealing with a lot of like, like bypassy types, who in their young, early, 20s, it's just a lot of lessons learned, just a lot of lessons learned.
Yeah.
And also in myself, like I learned a lot of lessons about my own leadership and my own emotionality and how I really, I'm an empath. And so I take on other people's energies, and that's oftentimes not necessarily the best for me, for my businesses, from a CEO's perspective, which is why when I built Tushy, I put a CEO in place who's, pretty just level all the time in the same exact way, versus more of an artistic, emotional, empathic person, where I want everyone to feel included, everyone to feel everyone, to all of that. And if someone's unhappy, it really hurts me and I feel bad. And then it's just a whiplash, and it's a lot to manage. And so I learned that I'm not necessarily the best at managing people. And so I'd rather, put people in place who are really good at that and who really love that and who, you know, are, more sort of have their energetic wetsuit on, where if someone has a bad day or is being negative or being whatever, that they're not letting it get to them. Whereas for me, like if someone was like, if I would say like, hey, how are you? And they'd say, tired. Like I would be like really annoyed by that or hurt by that or frustrated by that or just feel bad that that's how someone would respond, to me or
I
something like
get
that,
that. No, I get it. I get it. It's your baby. And so put the grown-ups in charge.
Exactly. So it's just yeah, I mean, not that I'm not a grown up, but I just know what I'm best at. And I think I learned a lot from that experience of like what I'm best at. And I think what I'm best at is really being the creative force and the visionary and sort of, coming up with the whole brand identity and like
Mm,
breaking the societal taboo and like what is the best strategy from a high level marketing, and then creative PR, and then building the best team to go and really execute, and also have a lot of incredible ideas as well. So
right.
it's just with a lot of people with a lot more experience this time. So yeah, I mean, every single thing that I needed to learn, I learned with the last company. But it was certainly not fun to be like dragged through the mud
Yeah.
publicly.
We
You
all knew
know,
that it wasn't true. I mean,
no, yeah, and also, the truth is I've actually never been bullied in my life because I had a twin sister, and I've always had, someone with me, and I think, what was so interesting for me was that because I'd never been bullied before, I never really could empathize with people who've been bullied. I'd just be like, "Come on, just move on, fuck those guys, let's keep going," versus, like, really helping them, kind of first heal from that and then, like move forward. And
yeah.
so I think having gone through what I did, like I remember like this probably the most powerful moment in my entire like emotional life was when I was laying in my bed on my in my apartment, crying in my pillow, so pregnant, and just being like in the eye of the storm when every awful thing was being said about me, and I was just like just sobbing. And then I had this like out of body experience where I kind of became this like a Whoopi Goldberg, like in the movie Ghost, where you kind of like exit and enter these people's bodies, but I actually exited my own body and
Mm,
became this like little like fly on the wall looking at myself sobbing in my pillow. And then I was like, oh my God, I get to feel the depths of despair, of anger, of betrayal, of sadness, of pain, of torture. I get to experience these feelings in this one short and precious life. And oh my God, that's so incredible. And I started laughing. And then so in my pillow, I was like cry laughing, like ugly cry laughing, like a crazy person, but it was like this such a existential moment of like, wow, like I get to expand my emotional capacity before I die. I get to feel everything before I die and not be just confined to this box of like everything's great and everything's wonderful. And I get to really, really like, there's that I think it's the Wordsworth quote, or is it Wordsworth, that says like, I want to skid to my skid to death's door. I want to skid to my it's hold on. Hunter S. Thompson, sorry. Hunter S. Thompson said, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride.
That's so good.
Yeah. And
Oh,
so I think that like in that moment, I really understood that like, wow, I get to feel these feelings I never really got to feel before. And I became so grateful for them. And then now when I meet people who've been through any type of painful, challenging betrayal or anger or all these things, I can meet them there because I've felt it personally. I've experienced it viscerally to the depths of my soul. So I can now like meet them there and cry with them and feel with them because I know what that feels like. And I'm so grateful for that. So grateful for that.
I really appreciate that entire visual because I think it encapsulates an experience for a lot of us. We've all kind of been there in some way.
Yeah.
The next place I wanted to go was to talk about the creativity with which you've launched Tushy. It moves me, like seriously moves me. And I thought it might be fun for you to talk about it and teach us a little bit about how you sort of let your mind be so free and do what you want and how successful it was.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think ultimately, it starts with just like truth, right? Like, what is it that's true to us? And what is it that we're like, huh? Like, why is this weird? Like, why don't we have this before? And also, it has to start with like a personal problem, I think, and I think for me, in my first book, Do Cool Shit, I talk about the three questions I ask myself before starting any business. The first question I ask myself is, what sucks in my world? Like, it has to start with me. And then the second question is, does it suck for a lot of people? Because if it just sucks for you, then it's not really an opportunity. But if it sucks for a lot of people, then it's a real opportunity. So, for example, for my first company, in my restaurant business, what sucked in my world, having stomach aches. I would come home after working and eating out in New York, all the time. I'd come home with really terrible stomach aches, and I was like, oh my god, what is wrong with me? And in my research, discovered that the processed food industry and all of that. And I realized that, wow, like 1 in 5 Americans have a gluten issue. 1 in 5 Americans have a dairy issue. There's a lot of people with a lot of different ailments. So that's when I wanted to start my very first business, which is like gluten-free pizza place in New York City called Wild, which still is around today. So if any of you listening is in New York City, we do have our restaurant in the West Village that's open. If you can check out Eat, Drink, Wild. And it's my first baby from when I was 25 years old, and I'm so proud that it's still going. So
Eatdrinkwild.com.
yeah, eatdrinkwild.com. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Or at eatdrinkwild on Instagram, because our website needs a lot of
Nice.
refresh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just go to at eatdrinkwild on Instagram. And so yeah, so what sucked in my world, having stomach aches? What sucked in my world, having period accidents? Every time I had my period, I would like bleed through my sheets and my pants and my clothes and my underwear and everything. So what sucked in my world, having period accidents? Does it suck for a lot of people? Every single woman can raise their hand if you said, like, have you had a period accident in your life? And so that stuck to my world. So, and then the third question is, can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a really long time? So with Tushy, what sucked in my world was I had a very intense hyperthyroid condition, from building my businesses, for just being in the weeds, for dealing with just high stress life in New York City, from restauranting and then to running things, and then just not listening to my body. So I developed a really intense hyperthyroid condition, which one of the side effects is that I was pooping up to 8 times per day, like literally big poops. Like, and I lost 8 pounds. I was down to 100 pounds, and I was, my usual weight is 108 or so, and I'm only 5'1". So, and so I got down to 100 pounds, and I looked like, it was just like, like the amount of poop that was coming out of my body. Every time I ate, I would just poop all of it out and then some. And it was just crazy. And so, and then in the process of not only my whole system getting like really attacked, but my poor raw butt was just being rubbed on and rubbed on and rubbed on constantly because I was pooping so much that it ended up being so raw. Like I developed a hemorrhoid. I had to like jump in the shower to just like, like, when you're like, ooh, like
Yes, yes.
washing my butt gingerly, tenderly, and just being like, oh my
Poor
God, it's so,
muffin.
it was so painful. And then for my I think it was my second Valentine's Day present that my boyfriend, now my husband Andrew, got me, was like this shitty bidet product thing that he found on the internet that would help ease my, he was the only one that he found that he thought would help ease my pain. And so he installed it and he was like, look, like, here's something that can help you soothe yourself. Like, what a gorgeous person, right?
First of all,
And
what a person. What a
yeah,
human.
what a human. And he's amazing. I mean, everyone should check out Tribute, his business. It's the most amazing thing. We talk about that in a second, but
We can.
it's like literally spreading gratitude around the world. Just check out tribute.co. If you have a chance, please do. It's insane. It's amazing. So he got me this bidet thing, and it literally changed my life to the point like I would be crying using it because I would feel so grateful that I didn't have to like do the whole thing of like getting in the shower and then having to interrupt my whole day. It was just like this simple thing that just, and then in my head, I was like, I am going to make the best in class version of this thing. And I'm going to bring it to America and I'm going to spread this around. And also, I'm half Japanese, half Indian. In Japan, bidets are in every single household, in every McDonald's, like it's in every airport, it's everywhere, it's in every restaurant, every retail place. There's a
Hmm.
bidet. In India, there's a lota, which is like that, almost like a spray gun where you just like spray your butt with a spray gun into like, into this hole basically. So in both cultures, you used water to properly wash yourself. The analogy I always give is like, imagine if you jumped in your shower and did not turn the water on and just used dry toilet paper to wipe down your dirtiest bits. Like people would be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, so why are we using dry toilet paper to wipe down the dirtiest part of our body, our butt that has bacteria and infection and E. coli, all the things that we're just using dry paper and just smearing the poop around and then sitting on that fecal matter all day long. And then that for women, it kind of like comes up into the vaginal canal, causes yeast infections, UTIs, all these things, bacterial vaginosis. For men with all the rubbing and rubbing and rubbing because they have hair back there, they get hemorrhoids and anal fissures, and then wet wipes are terrible for that too. They cause anal fissures. They strip away and rip the natural oil, your natural oils from your behind, and then eventually cause little micro lacerations and tears, which is what is causing anal fissures. So please do not use wet wipes. Also, it's terrible for the environment and terrible for our plumbing systems. I mean, they're trying to ban them in New York City. So, so I just was like, this sucks in my world. Then I realized, oh my God, like, there's 30 million people in America with chronic UTIs, hemorrhoids, anal fissures, anal itching. And on top of that, there's more bacterial vaginosis, all these issues down there. All these people who have, mobility issues, who can't wipe their own butts, can now have something that they could just go to the bathroom with dignity and not have to do that. People who have, people who are elderly, need to now can just go to the bathroom on their own. Like people, all the environmentalists who feel terrible that we're killing 15 million trees per year, and to wipe our butts with them so disrespectfully, and right now the worst part is we're killing the Canadian boreal forest, one of the biggest carbon sinks in the world, to cut down these 1,000-year-old trees to make disposable toilet paper with them. It's just for industry, for these big companies to make billions of dollars to actually not properly work for us. I think about it all the time. I'm like, oh, these companies have like, they own both the toilet paper company and the hemorrhoid cream company and the UTI like yeast. So like they take the whole industry because they know that the toilet paper is going to cause these infections, that they're going to also own the UTIs and the hemorrhoids and you know what I mean? So it's disgusting, like killing of planet, hurting of human beings, like vibes for that these companies are doing for the sake of money. And there was just such a huge opportunity to support this massive growing movement of sustainability, of health, wellness, citizen scientist type, people around the country and the world. And so I really thought that bidets are going to come to America like at some point, and I believe that it was going to be us that was going to do that, and so I started Tushy, and we created the best in class bidet attachment on the market. It's under $100 product. It looks beautiful next to your toilet. It takes 10 minutes to install. There's no plumbing or electrical required. It's not pulling from the water from your bowl or your tank. It's pulling from the wall, the same water you brush your teeth with. So it's clean water. You can also hook up your hot water to it if your sink is next to your toilet. For an extra $20, we give you this Tushy Spot, which is the warm water one. And it's, and then we're launching our full toilet seat, which includes a warm toilet. I'll send you the whole thing when it's ready. It's a warm toilet seat, warm water, blow dries your butt, the whole thing. And it's still like a quarter.
Dude, that
Yeah,
sounds so good.
yeah, and it's still a quarter of the price of like the expensive Japanese toilets. And so,
Right.
we're really excited about the opportunity of saving millions and millions of trees. Like to date, Tushy have saved over 5 million trees being flushed down the toilet. We've helped divert billions of gallons of bleach and helped save, even more gallons of water to make the toilet paper. It takes 37 gallons of water to make one roll of toilet paper. The average American uses 57 sheets of toilet paper per day. It's just absurd. I mean, the waste, the consumption, it's insane. And so, you buy you buy Tushy one time, and in 3 months you're paid back from the amount of toilet paper you save. And then you're saving thousands of dollars over time. You're properly washing yourself. You feel sexier, cleaner, more like cool. Like you just feel better. And it's just a no brainer. It's a win-win-win for people, planet, and pocket, like your pocketbook.
I want to go
So
back to those 3 questions that you asked.
yes. Yeah. So what sucks in my world, having, this awful like pooping situation with my thyroid. Does it suck for a lot of people? Yes. Massive opportunity, massive market to support, to give this offering to. And then can I be passionate about this issue cause or community for a really long time? Yes, because one of the things that we did, not only are we helping, with reforestry projects and also soil regeneration projects, and also help divert 5 million plus trees from just getting flushed down the toilet at all. We're also fighting the global sanitation crisis, which is helping, which is affecting over 3 billion people globally, which people poop outside, open defecate. Almost 1 billion people practice open defecation, and almost 3 billion people don't have access to a safe and consistent place to go to the bathroom. And girls and women are often the ones that are the most vulnerable. And they basically oftentimes have to not drink enough water or food because they don't want to go at the middle of the day. So they end up being dehydrated, getting UTIs and all these issues down there because not drinking and passing the fluids. And then they have to wait till late at night, go in groups of women walking up to 5 miles to go and relieve themselves every single day of their lives. And so for us to help support, we've partnered with this organization called Samagra that builds clean toilets in India to start, because India is like the open defecation capital of the world. And so to date, we've helped 60,000 families gain access to clean toilets, and that number is going to go up in the hundreds of thousands after these next couple of years. So we're very,
Of
very excited about
course.
that.
I'm really proud of you, sister. Like really proud. I didn't realize quite the scope of the whole thing. Well,
Well, I'm really proud of
um,
you too.
we both get to do our things. This is, I feel, just the beginning of your trajectory. There is one book that I want to make mention of. It's called Disrupt Her, DISRUPTHER. If you have girls in your life that are, younger than you, if you're listening to this, if you have girlfriends whom you feel would benefit, this is a book that walks you through how to become a person who innovates audaciously and who disrupts the status quo in ways that are of benefit to all of us. And it's a magnificent, magnificent read. Beautiful book. Anything else that you feel we should touch on before we close?
I mean, yeah, I will also, the one thing I will say that like has been a really interesting challenge for me has been this whole baby making process. And I think, that's something that maybe you might have some insights on, or maybe not. But I mean, I feel like maybe there could be good, uh, some good, uh, some good essential oils that I could take to help support that. But I think, I have a 3.5-year-old, and I think
Mm-hmm.
um, the one place in my life that's still very interesting to me is just calling in this next babe. So, any
Anything,
words of advice?
a couple things that I did. I had a few miscarriages before Jonah, and I worked on one thing and one thing only, which was letting go. Like
Yeah,
deeply, profoundly resting and letting go and allowing for the timing that was appropriate. That
yeah.
was the only way I wrote a letter to Jonah before he was even conceived and explained to him what he was coming in for, the love that
Mm,
was waiting for him, and the welcome that was awaiting him.
yeah.
And doing that, and I did a couple of other ceremonies with some very gifted healer friends, dancing and listening and writing and singing and moving and not trying so hard.
I know. I think that's it. Like, I feel like I've done all of those things, and I'm also trying too hard because I'm also such a type A like you, Cornell, And so
Oh
I
yeah.
think, it's the letting go, and I'm just having such a hard time letting go. And even like, I'm like, I'm gonna let go, I'm gonna let go, and then it just, like,
Mm-mm.
it's you can't fake that, So I just have to keep just trusting. I guess that's it.
I think also Hero signed up to be a little bit older than his sibling.
Yeah, yeah, I see that.
I don't think he's keen to be a part of a dual show. I think he has his own show and he will have his own teenager dumb. And when this kid comes in, Hero will actually be of great use to you and help to you.
Ah, that's so. You're the first person to tell me that. That is actually probably exactly right.
It's what he
Because
needs. It's what he
yeah, he
needs.
is his own. He needs his own time for sure.
Yeah. I
He's
mean,
so
he's already had a lot of it, but I
yeah,
think, let's say he's, I don't know, 4 or 5 when you have your next kid.
yeah,
That's a helper. That's not
yeah.
just another liability.
Totally,
You
totally.
know what I mean? Speaking candidly,
Yeah,
I didn't have the courage to go back for a second baby. I was just like, oh, this is my one. We're good.
I love it. I
Mm.
love that, and that's I think about you all the time actually, because I'm like, you know what, like if I have one, that's perfect.
It
If I have
truly
two,
is.
whichever one is it's all perfect. It's all perfect. And
Yes.
so what will be. And and I totally am getting I'm like I'm getting to that place. Like
Good.
I'm getting there.
I truly love.
I think I needed that insight to close this out. Thank
Yeah,
you. I
no,
love you.
that came through very clearly for me, like seeing him a little bit older and, handing you a diaper and holding
Yeah.
the child while you're dealing with other things. I don't know, it
Yes.
was clear as a bell.
I love
I
that.
I love you. I respect you. I really honor who you're becoming in front of my eyes. All of that hardship for you to me was nothing short of a blessing because it's made you a softer, more present, more caring um, human and friend and sister to me. And I'm grateful for all of that. Yeah, love you. Love you. And listener, thank you for being here. Miki Agrawal, MiKiagrawal.com is her site. From there, you'll be led all around to all the other sites. If you're in New York, eat, drink, wild. If you have a tushy,
Mhm.
you go to Tushy. What is the site? Tushy.
Hello, not
Hello
tushy.com,
Tushy.
it's a porn site. Tushy.com is an anal porn site. So go to
Whoopsie.
hello tushy.com.
Hello Tushy. HelloTushy.com. We love you so much, Mick. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Mm.